going on, guys? This is Brandon from USF1. Thank you for tuning in for my late video on the Singapore Grand Prix. And man, it was a doozy. As you guys already know, there was only 12 finishers out of 20. That is ridiculous. No one could have predicted that. Definitely no one could have predicted the two Ferraris and the Red Bull of Max Verstappen to go out on the very start of the race. Who do you guys think? Leave a comment below. Whose fault was it? I think it was overall a racing incident, but it definitely would not have happened if Kimi Räikkönen didn't get that rocket start out the line and sort of putting Max Verstappen in a nowhere to go situation. And yeah, it was just unfortunate for everyone. That's typical for most, like it's typical for most guys in first starting pole to cut off the second place guys, so that way they don't have a cutback line on turn 2, which sort of, like Vettel, played his cards right, and he did so, protecting his position. And who would have thought that Räikkönen would have got that rocket start? It was just unfortunate for Red Bull and Ferrari, of course. And Alonso, obviously, he got taken out. He was that bystander. He got a rocket start too, and he got punished just for it. He would have definitely been at least, at P1 at the end of that incident. I don't know if he actually would have finished the race in first, but definitely would have came out with a lot of points considering where his teammate came at the end of the race. But yeah, I have to admit, it was kind of sketchy to even be starting that race when they didn't even know whether to be starting on wets, inters, or softs, considering it just started raining and they didn't know what the weather conditions were going to be. So it was kind of a bad. Maybe they should have delayed the race start for a little bit, or at least did just waited a couple minutes for the race time to go, considering they actually did 58 laps anyway out of the scheduled 61 because of the time delay and the length of circuit and how fast they go. It was definitely a very long race. I had to sort of turn off and stuff because I had friends and family over. But yeah, guys, there was definitely some very unpredictable situations going. Who would have thought that Hülkenberg would have been basically in position 3 at the start of at the end of the yellow flags, but he in the points, he actually didn't even finish the race. He actually ultimately came P13, but he now holds the record for the most starts in a Grand Prix and not even having a podium. Still unfortunate for Nico to not be able to get at least one podium. At least his old teammate Prez has a couple, and he had the same car and he didn't get any when he was at Force India. But you also had to get some major props to Carlos Sainz putting that Toro Rosso in P4. He must have just knowing that he has that Renault seat for next year, and he wanted to stick it to Toro Rosso and show him, hey, here's what I can do if I actually have a car that's good. And putting his Toro Rosso on P4, especially when Kvyat ends up trolling Carlos Sainz, as you can see Sainz two positions ahead of him to pass Kevin Magnussen on because he was sort of being held up by him. But and basically, I don't know, a minute after saying that, he himself, Kvyat, went sliding into a wall and DNFing himself. And sort of karma, do not even radio even though they weren't specifically talking to each other. Don't be trying to hurry up your teammate, because obviously you're gonna end up having the same issues as well. Especially when you're Daniel Kvyat, you have so many DNFs on your record. I wouldn't even be worrying about Carlos Sainz's race. Just worry about your own damn race, man. That's what I would say. But yeah, and then overall, I also had to have a big head scratch to Sauber. What the hell was their strategy? I think they really definitely need a racing director, or at least someone on the pit wall that knows what they're doing. Yeah, and then on top of that, when everyone was switching the inters, they still kept them on wets. And they brought him in for dries, everyone was switching to ultra softs. And then they put Ericsson on softs. And then Wehrlein didn't even come in until a couple laps after that. And overall, what the hell are you doing? So yeah, what the hell is Sauber doing? Basically putting their car, they already were going to be coming last regardless, but at least been competitive. Considering how many safety cars we had, they weren't even helping them. They were so far behind that they couldn't even catch up to the safety car queue. Yeah, Sauber definitely needs something, some sort of at least racing director going on. yeah, congratulations to Lewis Hamilton for his podium. If both Ferraris and the Red Bull, Max Verstappen, didn't DNF themselves in the top on the start of the race, I don't know if Hamilton would have even gotten a podium, let alone come first. You can't really fault Hamilton for it being sort of like being gifted the win. So yeah, and Daniel Ricciardo only coming 4.5 seconds behind him. And P2 put that Red Bull on some solid points. And Ricciardo yet another podium. He's showing that he is definitely a very reliable driver. And who knows, maybe he'll be driving for Ferrari next year, but I highly doubt it. I think he'll just be retained by Red Bull. And then Bottas coming P3. Him and Palmer actually had a pretty sweet battle. I thought I was like, I don't know, drunk or something. What I was seeing on my eyes, like with my own two eyes, seeing Palmer battling Bottas, a Renault battling a Mercedes, and Palmer actually looked like he was holding his own for a little bit, and then ultimately the Bottas, the Mercedes power, got past him at the end of the day. But as you can see, when Palmer has a reliable car under him, he's pretty competitive, and he actually bested his teammate this time around only because Hülkenberg, was a DNF, but he actually was doing better than Palmer for most of the race. But yeah, that's incredible. Carlos Sainz, as I said, coming P4, putting that Toro Rosso way up there. As again, none of this would have happened if it wasn't for the 3 DNFs in the start. Well, the 4 DNFs in the start. And then Sergio Perez coming P5 with his Force India. That's some great points for them. Palmer as came P6 right behind the Force India. He was about 3 seconds, about 2 seconds behind the Force India with his Renault. Van Dorn coming P7. Who would have thought that McLaren would have beat both Williams, a Haas, and a Force India on this track? Well, granted, it's kind of like like Hungary, and you don't necessarily need engine power ultimately, but yeah, that Honda engine actually survived the hot, humid climate of Singapore, and gave a solid result with P7. Who would have think though, like with Van Dorn coming P7, where would Alonso have come if he actually was able to get through that scrap without any damage? And then Lance Stroll coming P8, pretty solid for Williams. I'm sure they would have wanted a better result. Roman Grosjean with my Haas team had P9. Of course, I hope that Magnussen would have finished the race, but he was actually doing quite well too. I think he was coming P10 at the time. And we look pretty solid considering that we don't have a very good chassis for this track especially, but hopefully we can come back strong for Sepang. But great 2 points for Romain Grosjean and Haas. And then last but not least, with the last point on the grid was Esteban Ocon with the Force India. He had 6 pit stops total. That's ridiculous, but yeah, one point for Force India. Overall, 2 double points finish for them. Very good weekend overall for them. And then Felipe Massa coming P11. He did not look competitive whatsoever, except for that one time when him and Madison went wheel to wheel, and he tried to squeeze in Madison. Both of them didn't squeeze off, didn't turn off, and Madison ended up getting the best of him at the end of that stint. But great racing overall, considering that it was basically at that time for only like P12 and stuff. So it was actually kind of cool to see a good battle in the midfield. And then last but not least, for the winner, for the finishers, was Pascal Wehrlein coming P12. He was 2 laps down. Like I said, if Sauber knew anything, they would have at least been on the lead lap when they finished the race. But whatever, we can't really you can only just scratch your heads and just move on and hope that Sauber hires a crew chief. But yeah, guys, you have Madison, Hülkenberg, Ericsson, Kvyat, Alonso, Vettel, Verstappen, and Raikkonen all not finishing the race, which is really, really hard to imagine. Only 12 finishers in a race, but I don't remember even the last time that happened. Besides, like, I've seen a race in the U.S. that only had like 6 starters, but not one with like 7 not even finishing the race. But yeah, what do you guys think? Who do you guys think is the driver of the day? I think Carlos Sainz won the official driver of the day. Or is it Hamilton? But Carlos Sainz definitely could have been a very good possibility of being driver of the day. Palmer as well. Van Dorn definitely could have a very strong argument. Even Kevin Madison, maybe even Felipe Massa for their battle. Who do you guys think? I'm going to have to say Carlos Sainz are putting that Toro Rosso up on P4. And then my second one would actually have to be Van Dorn. And then third, I would have to rank Kevin Madison, only because his balls to the wall driving. And then ultimately his car ended up failing. It's probably just due to overdriving it. But, you know, stuff like that happens, and Madison looked great on the day. But yeah, guys, what do you guys think? Here is the current driver standings. The current constructor standings. And then, of course, it being Singapore, they always had some amazing snapshots of the skyline and the fireworks after the end of the Grand Prix. And as you can see, it's just gorgeous. Like I said, they have that policy to where they want to keep their city clean and all that. So hopefully, you know, we'll have some more great races here to come. They did just sign their contract, extended it out till 2021. Which is great to see. Singapore will be staying on the calendar for a while. Hopefully Sepang in 2 weeks, which is just on the other side of the island of Malaysia, will sign on just like Singapore. Theoretically, their contract ends after this year, but hopefully they renew. But yeah, guys, I think that's it for my video. What do you guys think about Sepang? What do you think about Singapore in general? But sorry for the delayed video. Appreciate you guys viewing this. I'm Brandon from USF1. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.